Hey everybody, this is your daily dose of all things royal. Not even a day into 2023, and the Harkles have already started up with their propaganda nonsense. Happy New Year, everyone. Today is January 2nd, and the Montecito Royals refuse to give the public a break from their propaganda. So dropping on January 1st was the teaser from 60 Minutes and Harry's upcoming interview with Anderson Cooper. But that wasn't enough, because less than 12 hours later, 60 Minutes drops another promo, this time around Harry talking about, you guessed it, the media, and how the palace conspired against them and not protected them. Let's listen closely to Anderson Cooper's question in this teaser.
One of the criticisms that you've received is that, well, okay, fine, you want to move to California, you want to step back from the institutional role, why be so public?
This is how you can tell that this was scripted. So Anderson Cooper says you have received criticism, but it doesn't say who he received criticism from. And then Anderson adds on,
You say you tried to do this privately.
So Harry responds, and once again his narrative shifts. But hold up, Harry's eyes, they look really red. Wonder what's going on there. Also, his pupils look semi-dilated compared to Anderson Cooper's. Must be all of that fresh air in California.
And every single time I've tried to do it privately, there have been briefings and leakings and planting of stories against me and my wife.
This is full-on propaganda. And they're going to continue to beat this narrative into everybody's brains until it becomes the truth. And here's the thing, the reason why I'm doing this every step of the way is to ensure that the truth still remains at the forefront. Before I bring out the receipts, these are some signals showing that he's lying in this interview. In the very beginning, when he's about to answer, he touches his nose. He also stares without blinking for an unusual amount of time. And that is another indicator showing that when you're trying to convince somebody, you are not going to break eye contact with them to ensure that they are receiving this message that you're trying to sell. And for those that don't buy or believe those signals are an indication of lying, there's actual receipts that he is guilty himself of leaking these stories, especially surrounding Megxit.
I actually had the story on the 26th of December of Megxit. I have proof of that because I was actually speaking to his communications secretary at the time, who, by the way, Megyn, was offering me some of that horrible, nasty briefing about other members of the royal family that Harry claims to despise so much.
The central claim of their piece is that they would never do to other members of the royal family what they believe was done to them, which is to be used as a dumping ground for negative stories when somebody else's name was in the press, that he and William promised they would never do that to one another. And now you're telling us on the record that that his office, Harry's office, tried to use you and other reporters to do negative stories about the other royals.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, the family motto is never complain, never explain, but it's just a motto. And it doesn't really hold.
There's a lot of complaining and a lot of explaining.
Endless.
Private being done through leaks.
Through leaks.
I believe Harry when he says this because he is guilty of doing it himself. The bigger question is, what are the other royals doing in the sense of covering up, planting stories, if that is indeed the case, which opens a whole new can of worms? Harry had to have learned this from somewhere. We cannot blame the wife because the wife is not that bright and also has never had this level of fame and scrutiny her whole entire life. If anything, Megyn learned from Harry some of these deceitful tricks of planting stories. Now, we know that Megyn has planted stories before, but I think she has graduated in her sophistication of how many stories and what kind of stories that are planted in succession to paint a narrative. Since we don't have context of what they were discussing before Anderson asked this question, we have to take it at face value and say that Harry didn't answer this question properly because the question never specified where the criticism was coming from. It could have been online, it could have been in the United States. Obviously, he's directing it at the British tabloids and media, and then ultimately pinning this on the family. In this 60-second clip is foreshadowing what's going to be in this book, which is ultimately blaming the family for not protecting them. And what Harry really means about protecting them is really they wanted the palace to lie for them. The truth came out about these two being bullies and treating people badly and did not want to do the work, but at the same time receive all the perks of being a royal. Everything that Harry is going to position, not only in this interview, but also in the book, is how he has been wronged and how he has suffered this genetic pain of being the second born and having to follow in the shadows of his father and his brother, not really able to stand out on his own and be confined to this horrible, trapped institution. There's going to be a lot of blame put on the staff at the palace, as well as the family members, of being jealous of Megyn. That indication you can tell by the last few seconds of this teaser clip.
They will feed or have a conversation with the correspondent. And that correspondent will literally be spoon-fed information and write the story. And then at the bottom of it, they will say that they've reached out to Buckingham Palace for comment.
And once again, Harry is speaking from experience because here Dan Wooten is laying it all out.
And the thing is, this isn't about planting stories. That's wrong. Journalists who have stories speak to the courtiers at the palace. Usually those courtiers, if they knew you had an accurate story, would do what any good PR professional usually does, and that is try and shape the story with the other side. And so I was more than happy when I had the story of Megxit to hear what Harry and Meghan had to say about it. And actually what they had to say was fascinating. They briefed me via their communications secretary.
And that correspondent will literally be spoon-fed information and write the story. And then at the bottom of it, they will say that they've reached out to Buckingham Palace for comment. So when we're being told for the last 6 years, we can't put a statement out to protect you.
You see how manipulative Harry is right there? He's saying 6 years to make the American public think that this has been going on forever, when in actuality, the moment that Meghan entered into the family and then left was little less than 3 years. So what are you talking about, Harry? Get your facts straight. So to sneakily add in the last 3 years while you were living in the United States to build up your security case, I'm sorry, but that's a little deceptive. I highly doubt that Anderson is going to challenge Harry by saying, well, you left the family, you left your job, and part of the perks of the job was to have security. No, we're not going to get any of that. In fact, he's just going to sit back and he's going to listen to him and give Harry questions that he already has answers prepared by his wife. And I'm sure we're going to hear all the traditional buzzwords like layers and systemic racism and unconscious bias.
We can't put a statement out to protect you, but you do it for other members of the family. There becomes a point when silence is betrayal.
It's funny because it really is bothering him that with all the tantrums that he has thrown over the last 6 years and not getting his way, the family remains silent, and he is actually directing that to them. He's pissed off. The family continues to ignore all the stunts that he's been pulling over the last 6 years. And that's driving both him and the wife bananas.
When silence is betrayal.
Oh, the irony, says the man who is the modern day Judas. My final thoughts on this. All I can say is that I expect to hear the same whining, moaning, and issues that he keeps bringing up about not being protected, and it will center around the whole premise of security and his dead mother. We know that it's going to be probably one of the core themes of the book all the way through. This is what it has been from day one, whether it be of their delusions or their paranoia, thinking that they are really extra special in this world. They're going to continue to keep talking. We all know that based on their past behavior, that part of their grift is slagging off the royal family. As you can see, victimhood is a very lucrative business. So, of course, there's going to be a lot of disruption coming when this book drops. What's truly disgusting to see, though, a once respected broadcast such as 60 Minutes now peddling this propaganda for this ungrateful, malicious, and deceitful human being. The challenge that we have here in the United States is that not many people were paying attention to the shenanigans that were going on with this couple over the last 5 years. It's only now people are starting to wake up, so they may not be as exhausted as we are from hearing the same lies over and over and over again, especially when they've been proven with receipts. Just like I have shown, there's going to be a population of people here that eventually may end up believing him. And this is what we have to stop from happening, because this is dangerous. This tactic of continuing to tell these lies until they become truth is exactly what we don't want with history repeating itself, if you know what I'm talking about. I'm just going to leave it there, but this is going to get ugly. And I just want to forewarn everybody, do not fall into the trap of feeling sorry and having empathy for Harry, because he had somebody write this for him. Somebody else is in charge of writing it to pull on the heartstrings of everybody who is buying the book. Obviously, Harry has not gotten over his trauma of losing his mother. We don't need to care if he's hurting, because he didn't care about his own family when they were hurting. Work it out in therapy, Harry. The world does not care about your whining and moaning about how life has been unfair to you and your wretched wife. Anyhow, leave your thoughts below. I will be back soon with some more content. Until then, be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
I was such a fraud.